Hi and welcome to my game review of Loop Hero. I'm Icon and this video will consist out of two parts. In the first part I'll give you a basic introduction about the game mechanisms, the core game Loop. And in the second half I will talk about why I consider this game to be absolutely deserving the overwhelmingly positive feedback that it receives. Let's get started. So you play this little guy here running around in that loop endlessly. You start your adventure and the first thing you do is meet a blob. And combat in this game works completely automatically. It's just like in your favorite idle games. You can't really intervene here. So as a reward for the combat we receive cards which we can use. So we received a meadow. In this game you have to fight Oblivion and remember things to receive bonuses. Everything you remember is usually beaten out of enemies. And here, for example, we found a meadow. If we place that down, it will heal us for 2 HP every day. This is your course of the day. So we do our adventure here alongside of the loop. See here. We got healed because we got the meadow. The Oblivion card is an active card which just erases monsters from the road. And now we received our first danger card. That's a spider cocoon. And if we place that down, it'll start to spawn spiders every 2 days. So we won't be fighting only boring slimes any longer. We will also start fighting cool spiders, which will give us, guess what? Better loot and more loot. So we loot here from those slime monsters a cemetery, which will spawn skeletons, and a rock, which will increase our HP. And here comes the first interesting thing. The rock receives bonuses for being next to another rock or a mountain. So not only can you place down these things as you want to, they also do combo effects. And now let's get started about combo effects. Oh, look at that, we meet our first spider. So this is now... no, combo effects first. So things interact with each other in this game a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. For example, take this rock and place it next to a meadow. The meadow starts blooming. Whenever we place down things, we also receive materials. I'll tell you later for what reason they are. So the meadows go best right next to mountains, and a blooming meadow has a stronger healing effect. The game revolves pretty much a lot around experimenting and placing down combos as you think they could be working out. And this is the first part where your gameplay is evolving around. You think about where to place down your tiles, in what shape, to what end, and that alone is already pretty fun. Of course, you see here the combat part is also happening and gives you all the loot, and here finally we found our next items. So you also find items which you can equip, and guess what? These items give you stats which increase or influence your combat action. So this is the second part of the gameplay where you also play around the gear grind and try to optimize your items. For example, you get different mechanisms. Right now we're not seeing any, but there are mechanisms like damage reflection and counterattacks and life leech and things like that. So you have actually a pretty big recommendation towards focusing into specific stats. So here we found more cards like these, so we can place down swamps. They spawn mosquitoes, and swamps also influence my healing, so what my healing turns into damage there. So there are a lot of ways to influence your gameplay in this game. So it's up to you, and the challenge here relies on finding out how much pressure do you want to put on your board before you collapse. How greedy do you get? It's very, very easy to overload your map too quickly, and you always need to take account into your build right now. You have to take measure into which items you want to invest more, which sort of environment you want to build out, and before you can stop yourself, you're most likely already knee-deep into one loop, plopping down things, and the game really grabs your attention very, very well on this aspect. And yeah, that's pretty much already almost the core game. You have here a boss meter, that's the map completion, when the boss will spawn. This is the goal of the game, if you want to say so. Beat the next boss. Bosses spawn for every tile placed down, as you see here. For every tile I place, the boss meter grows. So the thing here is, for every loop you take, the monsters grow stronger. And if you would just blindly place down all the tiles, you could spawn the boss faster, then he would be easier to tackle down because of the lower level, but at the same time, you would be mostly placing down danger cards, making it less likely to survive all that. And here you see how the game already works out. It's a constant risk-reward battle, and you have to decide for yourself where you go to. And this is insanely fun. Believe it or not, this is really, really insanely fun. So let's get into the next and last part of the game. So whenever you meet the camp here, you can retreat from here. Retreating lets you keep those materials, and then you get into your permanent encampment. Here you can build new stuff, new buildings, unlocking new cards and new tiles. Therefore, so your gaming experience revolves here around the expansion, and you can see there's a lot of things you can build. Not only do you unlock new cards and tiles, you also unlock entirely new character classes to play. So you're starting out with a warrior, which has only these inventory slots, and you can unlock several other character classes. You can even edit here the deck of your cards, and you unlock more of those cards the further you play, and so on and so on. And you should be already familiar to these concepts if you played deck builders of the last few years, but this game took a very, very refreshing approach onto the genre. And I gotta admit, when I first discovered that deck building menu, I was really like, oh, I didn't even expect this. This game was already awesome fun without it. So Loop Hero combines idle gaming, strategic decisions, and a deck builder into some really, really fun game loop. And here we are already transitioning into the second part of the video, so please don't mind me starting another loop while I'm talking about why the game is so great. So idle games grew more and more popular across the last few years, and this game utilizes around that. But due to the fact that you place down environment and decide what kind of threats and dangers are revolving around you, it also reminds me a lot about good old God simulators like Populous and these really old games where you are not influencing the game directly, but rather indirectly by forming the environment and equipping things like that. This is a really, really fun experience. At the same time, the gear management is very challenging on its own because you are completely at the whim of RNGesus. So building a decent build is always you improvising around the cards you're getting dealt. And that also makes an insanely fun combination. Add to that an insanely large amount of polish, like for example, hovering over the slime immediately pauses the game. Whenever I check out my gear, also immediately pausing the game. There are a lot of small interactions making the game feel very smooth from the beginning, which really impressed me. For example, pausing the game can be done by right-clicking or pressing the space bar. So there are already several ways of using the game implemented before you even start worrying about the configurations. Add to that a very comprehensive and fun tutorial, which really, I gotta say, this was one of the best tutorials I've played in the last few years. It got me hyped and I wanted to play the game. And on top of that, there's a really, really large amount of content and combination methods, making you always trying out something new, like, does that cemetery do something special if I combine it with that environment or that environment? Because there are a lot of things to discover. So yeah, Loop Hero, definitely for me, my game of the month March. I don't think that something better will show up during this month, and it's definitely worth every single dime of your money because it's dirty cheap for what it has to offer. The only downside and the real critic I could, or the real criticism I could say about the game is that it feels a tad bit casual on the outside, and you really could grow a bit tired of the gameplay quite quickly. But then at the same time, well, there are other games to play. I really like to dive into this one for a refreshing round, and I also end up quite often hours and hours with just another loop. So yeah, this game gets the job really, really well done, and it's worth your money. Go play it if you want to. You won't be regretting a thing. And yeah. So, did you like that review? Leave a comment down below, or if you have any questions, please feel free to ask away. I love to get back at you. Leave also a like or even a subscription to my channel if you want to support. I'd be super grateful. So also check out the description below. You'll find my Discord server and other really cool and helpful links down there. And most importantly, have fun and have a nice day. See ya.